Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar brought to you by Vapour in partnership with Wavenet. The topic of today's discussion is how to make Microsoft Teams work harder for your business, and we've got a lot of content to get through over the next 45 minutes or so. Some of you may already have heard of TeamsLink, whereas other guests today will have never heard of it before. So what we're going to try and do is give you a whistle-stop tour as to what it is, the functionality packed within it, how it's deployed, and then leave plenty of time at the end for you to pose your questions to our two speakers today. Before we begin, I'm just going to share a little bit of housekeeping, if that's okay. To either the right or left-hand side of your screen, you should see a chat panel. And if you want to type any questions, large or small, vague or specific, in that chat panel throughout the event, then we will get through as many of those as possible when the slides are over. If that chat panel gets in your way at any point, you can just use a little orange arrow to minimise or maximise the screen. We've got lots of screen grabs to show you so that you can get a real feel for what TeamsLink is about and the value it can hopefully add for your business. And obviously, if anyone wants a one-to-one demonstration at the end of the event, we can organise that for you as well. If you lose sound or connectivity at any point, please just log off and rejoin using the invite link that you should have hopefully received again this morning. That's the only housekeeping for today, so on to today's speakers. We're joined, as you can see, hopefully at the top of your screen, by Tim Mercer. He's the CEO of Vapour, a true cloud technology specialist established in 2013. And the kind of key ethos of Vapour is to utilise cloud technology to liberate business growth, productivity and collaboration. He's joined by Barry Ward, Product Director from Wavenet, and Barry is here to answer as many technical questions as you can throw at him this morning. He is the TeamsLink expert here, so please do post your questions to Barry. As I said, we have a lot to get through and we don't want this to be death by PowerPoint. We're mindful that people have been quite overwhelmed with webinars, especially in the last 18 months. So we're going to keep the slides quite visual in the hope that we can add as much value and keep things quite light and hopefully not too taxing. So these topics that you see on the screen are the themes that we're going to go through over the next 40 minutes or so. And we hope you enjoy it. As I've said, please do ask your questions. It would be a far more interesting event if we address the specific opportunities and issues within your own organisation. That's it from me. Nice, quick, short housekeeping introduction, and I'm going to hand over to Tim.
Thanks, Katie. Appreciate that. Morning, everyone. I'm going to go through some overview, really, of why we partnered with Wavenet, what the platform looks like, and why we feel that there is an increase in Microsoft and Teams capabilities moving forward. I also we'll be delving in between Barry and myself and looking at the platform itself. So as Katie said, if you've got any questions, then please just shout. If you want to say anything, let us know and we'll put a demo together at the end. But let's give you a quick overview first. Why Wavenet and why Microsoft Teams? So in a nutshell, we looked at building this ourselves as Vapour. And as you can probably imagine, you need to be a Microsoft specialist to make this platform really work together. And we're going to talk a little bit later about business intelligence, because I feel that that's where this market space is going in general. And consequently, we need to make sure that we can pull the BI out of the back end of the platform. And trying to build it yourself is really, really difficult. And we're going to talk a little bit today about the difference between direct routing and this platform that we have with Wavenet as well. So Barry will cover that off a little bit later. Just a little bit of an overview there. So in about 2016, Microsoft decided that they put a bid in for Slack. So we all know what Slack is as a platform, about an 8 billion acquisition. And they decided that they would really reinvent Skype at that point. It was about 2016 that they'd reinvent it. So lots of money on the table and really wanted to build a platform that would encompass one platform and one holistic view of how everything worked. So we all use Teams. 99% of people use Teams today. It's simple, it's effective, but we don't use the full potential of it. None of us do, and we're included in that as well. We've still only got about 12% of users that use it for a voice platform. And as I say, we'll talk about direct routing and why you can get a plug-in and how that works in a second. But I think people are challenged around it. One, because they feel it's complicated, and it's not. And we'll show you that today. They've got current contracts that are in play, which we understand. There's sometimes that poor advice out there of why Teams would work, why it wouldn't work. Is it resilient? You should have separation. What's the cost to change? I think there's a total lack of understanding unless you're a real Microsoft partner around what that feels and looks like and what advantages you can get from using the platform. I think we've all not probably heard it for quite some time, but there's some fake news out there. I think we've heard that term for quite some time, but there is, and we'll try and dispel those myths as we go through today. And then we want to talk a little bit about, Barry and I will probably have a little bit of to and fro later on about direct routing, and you can see that you can get from 8x8 and you can get from Avaya and you can get 10 times other players out there. So that's what we really want to go through a little bit today. We want to show you where that sits and how we might potentially use the platform moving forward. So Katie, can you move to the next slide for me, please? Okay, so I spoke earlier about it being an all-in-one platform, okay? And I think we all use bits of it or all of the platform, depending on who you are as a user. So we all use, in instances like this, we use video platform, and we all know, we don't need to go into the detail about how it's boomed and how Zoom have boomed. If you know anything about the contact center, Zoom have just bought 5 nines, and that just came out on the wire yesterday. For about 16 billion, I think they bought that. So you can see that Zoom are now moving into that contact center environment. Interesting collaboration there, interesting buyout. But we can see that 95% of users really use one or two of these services. We use video, we use a bit of instant messaging, obviously we use email. One thing that I use massively that I didn't think I would use is a mobile app. And if you look at the mobile app usage, the growth of that I'll come on to some stats in a second, the growth of that is just phenomenal over the last year. So why do we not use them all? We might have other services in there. But the view that I've got here is it's one platform that's rich and it's easy, the content's there and we all use it. And rather than jumping out of that platform and going into another one and moving around, we can essentially make collaboration much more easier internally for customers and for externally as well. Why don't we use it? Or why should we use it, should I say? Why should we use it? It's simple. I think users will accept a little bit of what I class as funky video, which means sometimes it's a little bit hit and miss, but they won't accept that on a voice call. All right, so we need to make sure that when we're delivering to Teams, voice Teams especially, that we give it the necessarily challenges that it faces, and we have to deliver that as a perfect solution to support and look after the customers. So we think it's simple. We also think it's quite challenging in able to deliver it, which is why we partner with Wavenet, and Barry will come on to that in a second. And we want to make sure that when we're delivering a service for our partners, that they get the best level of service and support moving forward. So that's why we didn't build it ourselves. Love to do it. Our engineers wanted to build it, but I took a call and said, actually, I think that we should partner with someone who can do a better job than us and can support us in a better way. So next slide for me, Katie, please. All right, opportunities. Let's have a quick look at some stats around it and where we are. So we've been a cloud player since 2013. People laughed at me when I said that everything will go cloud from a voice environment and a cloud environment. I got laughed out of town in 2013. And I think we're rightly a challenger in that space. Obviously, we'd like to do a lot more, but I think there's a massive change in attitude. I think if you look at the dynamics around what we class as private cloud and pure cloud, you can see that the market is definitely shifting into a public environment because they feel it's a lot more secure. You're always updated with the latest secure patches and service patches. And if you look at some people that are moving into that environment, you've got some of the big banks are moving across there now. So Deutsche Telekom have just done a massive public cloud, 125 users moved it into the cloud. You've got Skipton Building Society. You've even got MasterCard, who've moved all their platforms and services into a public environment. So there's definitely a sea change in the attitude around what is cloud and how that's delivered. I think we understand the market quite well. I think we understand what the challenges some of our customers are facing, and we see a massive uptake in the 12% that we see that have got Microsoft Teams in play. Getting that up, and Microsoft want to do that, and you can see the changes that have been made on the platform daily to get that up to 30-40% over the next 5 years. So 2.7 billion Teams meetings done in 2020. You know, just put that into perspective. It's quite frightening, really. One thing that I thought was really interesting, when the stats, and this is from Microsoft, 72% of Teams meetings are done by males. So it's quite interesting. And maybe that's more because it's a male-dominated environment. I don't know, but in IT especially. But it just seems that I just thought that was quite high. When I talked about mobile integration earlier, the ones that I use, and I use it when I'm out and about, that's probably one of my biggest apps that I use at the minute. There was a 300% increase in mobile users in 1 month from February to March 20, which again, staggering really. And I think really there, it's the acceptance of people going home, working from. Barry and I were just talking about who's in the office, who's not in the office, how are they working, how are they collaborating, what are they doing, and it's much more focused around a platform and a platform as a service, not just voice. And I think that's what I want to get across to us today, is that what we're trying to talk to our clients about is platforms, not voice, not video, not networks, not services, platforms right across the board, because nobody wants to be jumping in and out of different platforms to do their work all day long. They want to jump into one and predominantly run from there. You know, that's why Slack's been really strong. That's why Google's really strong. And I think you'll see more and more of it from Microsoft moving forward. They also bought a platform company last year. Sorry, it might have been beginning of this year actually, called Nuance, and they paid 16 billion for Nuance. And Nuance, if you've never heard of the firm, built Siri for Apple. So it's voice activated, voice metrics inside platforms. And I think you'll see much more of this in the next 12 to 18 months coming through. Okay, next slide for me, Katie, please. Okay. Let's start introducing it, and let's get into the nitty-gritty of it a little bit. I'm not going to get into too much detail here. I'm going to let Barry do his work a little bit around it. But and again, if there's any questions, just shout. But primarily what we're talking about here is we all know how to use Teams, but how do we make it a proprietary platform to use TeamsLink to deliver your voice services, and how simple and effective it is, to set it up, and is it to manage as well? And we'll show you some of those screenshots later for that. So quick note on us, why did we partner rather than build? I went through that at the beginning. The guys have got the expertise in it. Wavenet tried to build it themselves early days, and partnered with a Microsoft partner, ended up buying the Microsoft partner to deliver this platform out into the masses. So I think there's lots of challenges there around the technology, the support, Microsoft engineering. And I think if you're my personal opinion, if you're a voice supplier, I don't think you've necessarily got all the attributes to deliver a platform as a service and a true cloud voice platform out into the market. Yeah, you can put a plugin from 8x8 or from RingCentral or whatever into that platform and deliver it, but that's not really what we're talking about here. That's not really what we want to talk about using the platform in the right way. And as I said right at the beginning, the biggest piece that I'm really interested in is the business intelligence that we can pull off the back of it. All right. So who was logged on? How long were they logged on for? You know, have we got an issue around how long people have been logged on at home or at work, on what platform they're logged into, what mobile device? Have we got HR issues that we need to, health and safety issues that we need to take into account? This is not just about a voice platform. This is about a true platform as a service. So without further ado, rather than me boring you to death, I'm going to hand you over to Barry at Wavenet. So over to you, Barry.
Cheers, Tim. Thanks very much. I thought that was a great introduction around Teams and the growth and that sort of stuff. So I'm going to talk around sort of TeamsLink, just a bit around the product itself, the growth of it, where it's come from, the advantages, some of the features around it, and primarily, you know, what is TeamsLink? So in a nutshell, yeah, we're all using Teams, or a lot of us are using Teams on a daily basis. We're using it for IM, we're using it for chat, we're using it for video meetings. You know, if you know, the norm now is video first, I think, in a lot of cases. And Teams as an internal, you know, communications device was great. As it's got bigger, you started to use external communications as well with Teams, so people, you know, have an external Teams meeting. But the real advantage of where we are with TeamsLink and Teams is the ability to turn it into a phone system. Okay, so you've got your on-prem phone system today, you're in Mitel, you're Avaya, or wherever it is, and you might go, actually, I want everybody to be working inside of that Microsoft Teams environment. I want a telephone number attached to it. I want to keep my old number, I want a new number. I want to be able to make normal phone calls sitting on there. I want to get rid of the PBX because it's got, it's legacy. But also, I want this to be really simple to manage. Teams, if anyone's managed it through PowerShell and through the administration center, you're going to have a reasonable degree of admin rights. You've got to have a degree of technical knowledge. Where we've come from with TeamsLink is let's make this simple. Okay, so let's make this so that somebody can change the way that a call routes. So if somebody is off sick or has to self-isolate, for example, they can take them out of a ring group really easily without having to contact IT. Let's use some of the additional features and functions that we might need to be using from a traditional telephony perspective and bring those into Teams. So in its rawest form, we're talking about connecting Microsoft Teams to the outside world using the old PSTN and telephone numbers sitting there. Okay. So how does that journey start and how does it work? I'm sure most of you are using Teams sitting here. What many of you may not have seen on the left-hand side here is the Teams phone aspect of it. And what we've got here is when you enable the phone system license from Microsoft, you get your traditional dial pad sitting down here on the left, and you can have access to a range of features and functions sitting in here. So if we look from the top left, for example, we've got our contacts, we've got our history, and I've got our voicemail sitting inside of Teams. And by using Teams as your primary communications device, that can show you all your chats in here as well. It can show you all your telephone calls, or your missed calls, or your voicemails, everything from this, which is one of the advantages which we'll talk about later on when we look at some of the competition. You've got obviously your telephone number, so you can see your traditional telephone number. You can access all your contacts in there, and there are some limitations that Microsoft have with contacts, which we've overcome using a specific directory in TeamsLink. So that's a pretty cool feature. And there are some settings that you can do from inside of Teams. But this bit on the left-hand side all comes available when you turn on that phone system license. So whatever we're doing today, you're going to need a phone system license to enable voice, and you're going to need the TeamsLink as an engine to drive that connection to the outside world. So let's talk about TeamsLink. Let's see where it is. As Tim said, we acquired a company way back just before the pandemic, back in 2020, an organization that had built a platform, for those of you that can remember, for Skype, which obviously is now being retired and is moving out from Microsoft. And it was a voice platform to enable Skype for Business. At that time, there was not much happening around the Teams space. Fast forward to where we are today, we're over 30,000 users at the month. In fact, and we're about to add on, I'm going to say nearly another 18,000 from a recent partner acquisition that's just bought in. So it's scaling, and we're growing at a run rate about 10% a month of people moving from traditional telephony into the Microsoft Teams environment. And those users, they range from 3 or 4 users sitting there all the way up to our largest site that runs on here is about 3,500 users. So it's completely scalable in how you use it and the functionality around it. And what we've done when we acquired this platform, we said, right, okay, let's build out the Microsoft approved infrastructure. So let's put in Microsoft approved SBCs. Let's build them into our core network. Sitting there, and then let's build a range of features, functions, management technologies over the top of it to give us a range of benefits. So we've got a team of 20 people running the platform sitting here, and that will scale as we get bigger. And what we've also done is we've integrated it because no man is an island, no application is an island nowadays. So we've gone out and we've actually done a lot of the heavy integration work and heavy lifting with third-party applications. So if you look at something like call recording, we have Verint plugged into the back. So if you're a financial house and you want all your MiFID II and PCI and all that sort of high level, really high level stuff for your bank sort of level, we've got that. But we've also got Dubber. which is a more flexible platform with a range of new features, and is a cloud-first platform, so we can store data in different regions and that sort of stuff. But we've built it all together. We've built this ecosystem so that people like Vapour, as one of our key partners in delivering this, have got that simple one-stop shop to deliver, and it brings in a range of benefits, right? So it makes it cost effective. It means that your invoicing is simple. You've got your calls and your licenses on one invoice. We've built a resilient architecture. The administration, I'll come on to that in a minute. We've got to make it simple. If people are going to use this, it's got to be easy to do. It's completely scalable. The platform is scalable as much as we want to. As I say, we talked about the integration. We're a UK-based support team, and we work with Vapour very closely on delivering some awesome support, and the Trustpilot scores and stuff are off the scale. It's good, and we're also moving forward all the time as well. We cannot sit still with this. Microsoft are pushing forwards, bringing new features in, enhancing it, and our whole team are built around how do we leverage some of those features, or how do we bolt on additional features, such as Power BI. We've done huge amounts of work around Power BI and integration with that, because as Tim said earlier on, yeah, great, making calls is fantastic and it is the lifeblood of a lot of businesses, but actually, how do you measure it? How do you quantify it? And how do you get that information around it? So if there's anybody technical, I'm going to try and keep this as simple as possible. Right, the science bit. So let's look at the platform itself and how do we get calls in and out of Microsoft. Okay, so if we go from left to right, left-hand side, we've put lots and lots of PSTN carriers into our platform. So we have multiple carriers with different number ranges on there, some international number ranges, some UK number ranges. That allows us to make sure that we can port. We've got different routes in and out of the platform for resilience. And again, it's completely scalable. So somebody will dial in to a telephone number, they'll come in over the left-hand side, and then it hits our core. And our core really is built in a fully geo-redundant platform. So we've got everything feeding each other. We've got a range of controls on the first two boxes sitting here. So this is where we control all our administration, add users, change ring groups, that sort of thing. We then push the calls out to those Microsoft approved SBCs, which again are carrier class and carrier grade. And that traffic then flows across to one of the Microsoft peering points in Azure. And then out to Microsoft Teams. And obviously, when you make a call outbound, the traffic flows the other way. So really the kind of key point of talking through this is it's resilient, it's scalable, it's got fully backed up. We've got the Microsoft approved SBCs, it's carrier class. It works. You want to be able to pick up that phone, whether it's a Teams handset, whether it's a soft client on your mobile, whether it's a soft client on your PC. You just want to be able to dial and make a call. And that's what all this stuff in the middle does to make sure that traffic can flow in and out. So hopefully that's kept everybody with me, and I've not gone too technical there. I'm just going to hand back quickly to Tim, just saying a bit about TeamsLink and why it can help you.
Thanks, Barry. I'm going to pass back to Barry after this slide, but just to confirm a couple of bits there. One of the reasons we partnered with Wavenet is just what you saw regarding that network architecture there. Now, we have a lot of that network architecture. We've built it across 5 data centers over the years, but there's a definite sea change in what I'm looking for around the capabilities into Microsoft and into Azure that we predominantly don't have as a business, especially from a voice environment, and trying to build that is incredibly difficult. And the biggest thing that we need to do, and we pride ourselves on, is delivering that level of support for our customers. And we can't deliver that level of support if we don't understand how the architecture is built and how it's supported. So it's one of the reasons why we're partnered, and especially from, as we talked about the BI, but all the new things that are going to come out of the powered platform from Microsoft. There's going to be a lot more of opportunities around how we integrate, and as I said about nuance and voice integration and AI and things like that coming, that we would struggle as a business to try and interpret and deliver. So hence why we've partnered, and I think it's really, really important that comes across as we pick the best. We went to market and looked at quite a few and picked Barry and the Wavenet team to be able to deliver it. So a little bit about who can TeamsLink help? I think the answer to that is everybody in some way, shape or form. I don't think there's a client out there that we've not spoken to that we can't help. As I said, it depends where you are in those contractual terms. I get that. You can't change everything all at once. I understand that. But there's a definite change of if you are looking at replacement, and especially because we've got a disparate workforce now, it's a challenge on making sure that the workforce is working in the right way, but you're giving them all the features and benefits that you should be giving them that they've used to have when they've been sat in the office. But one of the big things is to make them secure as well. Okay, it's fairly simple, as Barry will tell you. When you've got a customer, or you've got an office, you're all sat in the office, you're all going out of an internet pipe, and there's a firewall there, and you're going out and you're coming back in. It's pretty easy, that, right? We can manage that pretty easy. But when you've got 200 staff all sat at home, all using bring their own laptops or maybe company laptops, how do you keep them nice and secure? And I think that's going to be the challenge for us moving forward. I don't think it's as simple as we might want to effect. So who can it help? It can help everyone. Barry touched on a point there. We see a lot more PCI and DSS level 1 clients now, credit and debit card payments. There's laws around those of how you take those payments, how you manage those payments, especially in the financial world. You also spoke about Dubber. Dubber's the only accredited Microsoft platform with around understanding how that call recording sticks, and we can talk to you about that in much more detail later on. When we use this, we really like how quick it is to deploy and how easy it is, and how feature rich it becomes, and how accredited the Wavenet guys are around it. But I also think if you've got to look at, if you're trying to deliver voice, I'll go back to a platform as a service. You're trying to deliver voice to your clients, to your customers, or your employees when they're sat at home or in the office or out of the office or in a coffee shop or not in a coffee shop. You need a platform that's scalable and secure for them to be able to do that. And I think some of the legacy platforms are struggling to keep up and deliver that service that we're looking for. So, before I pass it back over from Katie, it's simple. It's quick to set up, it's effective, it's one platform as a service moving forward. But one thing I want you to think about is not just it being a voice platform. Moving forward, you've got to get a license. It's about having it as a platform as a service and utilizing the platform. Voice is just an application that sits inside that platform. I want us to start thinking about it like that. Thanks, Katie.
Okay, so now it's back on to me. So let's start looking at how is this actually added to your Teams environment, to your platform as a service. You probably can't see all these steps here, but there is a number of steps that you have to go through from a provisioning engine side, which is the stuff that we go through and that Vapour go through. From your side, it's pretty simple. Yeah, so you tell us how many people you want to have voice. You give them all the voice license from Microsoft, which enables that dial pad, and then we start to do all these steps in the background to add this in. Actually, turning on the routing and the calling takes around 24 to 48 hours because Microsoft have some steps that they have to run through in the background. And what happens is you need a spare Office 365 license. We then connect into that as the administrator. We do all the syncing up. So we sync up to AD so we can add users, and I'll come on to that in a bit more. And then we get the admin rights taken away. And then basically, once we add those numbers in there, we have to go through porting if you bring porting numbers in. But we control all the back end. So from an end user customer perspective, all of that is fully project managed, and it's very, very simple. How many users do you want? How many telephone numbers do you want? Do you want any porting? And pretty much away we go. On the left-hand side as well, there's a little, image there. As I said previously, there are Teams devices. So if you still want to have a physical handset on desk, there are specific Teams devices. You can do this stuff from your mobile as well and from your web app. I sat in Cambridge train station on Friday, making a telephone call from the waiting on my with my AirPods in from my iPad, and I was calling some people in the States, and it was crystal clear. It was fantastic. So, multiple devices, the way to interact with it. We manage all the back end of the deployment sitting there. And I think Tim brought out a really important message there. Look, you can go to Microsoft and buy one of their calling plans. So buy the phone system license and buy one of their calling plans. And they will then manage the numbers and the call routing and that sort of stuff. What we found is, from a commercial perspective, that's not necessarily the greatest, but also from an administration and from a support perspective, I've got a problem, I'm trying to call Microsoft, it's not the slickest that we found. There is another way, you can go direct routing. So yes, you can spin up your own SBC, as Tim said, and put it into your data center and just have calls coming in and out. Or many companies are springing up now offering this as a service. But again, it comes down to how easy is that to administer? How easy is it to secure down? What happens if it gets hacked and there's fraud? What are the steps in place in the back of that that sits there? How scalable is it? How resilient is it? So there's that route there. There's an app, as Tim said, you can put an app inside of Teams, which uses a separate third-party call control. Again, we're not seeing the real delivery of that because it's not fully integrated into the Teams environment. And then we've basically got TeamsLink sits there that gives us the best of all of those sitting there. So we did a quick comparison around it. And one thing to say is, Teams calling or TeamsLink calling may not be for everybody. There may be some specific features and functions that you have in your phone system today that you have to keep. But what we've found is, as people have moved more to this different way of working, so video meetings, calling, chat, IM and chat, a lot of the legacy calling functions have started to disappear and be less important. But we found that within Teams itself, there are some features and functions. We've added another layer in there to give us some more control. So if we just quickly look at some of the benefits that we've got sitting in here, when you take TeamsLink, you get all your UK minutes in there. We've got porting teams sitting in the UK. We've integrated this Power BI reporting with some really important, some really useful stats and information sitting in there. We've got, as I said, all the integrations sitting on the back. We've even got stuff like entry level, I'm not going to say contact center, but supervisor dashboards that sit in there. We've added our address book into it. So we've got a range of features and benefits that take us over and above direct routing up inside of Teams, Microsoft Calling Plan, and brings all those features and stuff up to the top. And Forrester did some research around Teams and Teams calling. They're saying that after your investment, 3-month payback sitting there, 261%, an hour and a half hours per week, average time saved by employees. If you think every time you flick across an app, it takes you 20 to 30 seconds for your brain to re-engage and readjust, it soon adds up every time. So where we're coming from on TeamsLink, lots and lots of advanced features and functions, commercially very, very attractive sitting there, and we've got a whole range of benefits sitting over some of the others. Right, so trying to slide across. Okay, so see it in action. So normally at this point we would do a live demo, but obviously we're conscious of people's bandwidths and that sort of stuff. So we're just going to show some screenshots today for simplification. If you do want to see it in action, Tim and the team at Vapour are quite happy to get those sorted out for you and really tailor it to your business and answer some of those questions. But I just wanted to bring out some really key points in terms of some of the features and functions that sit on here. So the first benefit that we have is our routing manager. So I know it looks quite busy, but it's quite a simple visual way of managing your call routes coming into the business. So call up at the top comes in, what happens in hours, what happens in public holidays, what happens out of hours. From there, we then build a layer and we go, right, we're going to make a ring group for the sales team. Sorry, we're going to have an auto attendant that says press 1 for sales, 2 for support, 3 for finance, for example. And then sitting underneath there, we've got all these different layers and options. So IVR, call queue, ring groups, all that sort of stuff can be built here. And as an administrator, you have access to make this change on the fly, and because it's very visual, it's very easy to change. So you would click on this sales group here, you would take somebody out of the sales group if they're off for a week. Their phone doesn't ring there and they don't get loads of calls. Or reception, for example, reception can't come in, so you take the calls out and you change the routing table here. Very simple, very visual, and anybody can use that down to anybody in the business, and we open that up to you, and that's something you don't get with any of the other engines that sit inside of Teams. The next slide is obviously the Power BI stuff. As Tim said, we've done a huge amount of work around integrating with Power BI. So we've got lots and lots of standard templates. So we can see here, where the calls coming from. Have we done a marketing campaign? Are we getting loads of calls from London? Are we getting them from Manchester? Where are those calls coming in? And we can look at it. And we've created a range of set templates that you can use automatically out of the box. But we also give you access to the API. So if you want to build your own and get some specific information, we pass all that information to you and we can help on that. So that's a huge benefit. The other side of it is the administration. As we said before, it's all about keeping it simple. So we sync up to AD. We do all the clever PowerShell scripting in the background, all that sort of stuff. You don't have to worry about that. You want to add another user, you type in the user details, you give them a license, you give them a telephone number, you click create, and that adds in. You haven't got to go through a PowerShell script and set up all your call processes and your call flows and that sort of stuff. Is literally simple, click, press a button, add it in. And again, anybody in the business can have access to do this. And then you can see, which users you've got, what telephone numbers they are, and what groups they're sitting in. And that's probably one of the biggest benefits in terms of the administration, because you don't have to employ techies to do this. And I'm sure Tim and the team can obviously help in setting this up and designing this and offer a managed service where required. But actually, sometimes you want to do something on the fly, we can pass that down. And the third piece, which I think is the final piece on this piece is the integration with the recording. I think this is quite important. As Tim said, it's more about how do we measure interactions? How do we measure, useful stuff that's happening on the platform? So actually, what we've got here inside of Dubber is sentiment analysis. Advanced features. So it's not just call recording. It's, was the call good? Was it happy? What was the overall tone of that call? If somebody says the word complaint, I want to automatically email a copy of that call recording to the CEO or to the head of customer services. Some really advanced features and functions that are built and baked into this call recording, which again is baked directly in to the TeamsLink platform. So as Tim said, it's not just giving you voice, it's giving you that whole platform as a service, and how do we drive that forward. So that's just a key summary of some of the benefits. There's loads more that we can show you sitting in there, but hopefully that just gives you a bit of a snapshot as to where it is. So Tim, back to you.
Thanks, Barry. And just to finish off there, I appreciate that, and really great overview. I think there's a couple of flavors. I think customer experience is the biggest driver inside any business at the moment. If you're looking and speaking to any board, any executives, it's around how we're going to manage our customers and that customer experience, and being able to give the senior management team, or whoever that is, the data to be able to manage it more effectively is key moving forward. And you'll hear me banging on about BI, and the reason I like it, and the reason is because of that customer experience. We need to understand what's happening inside our business, not just from a sales environment, but from a customer point of view, and dragging that information out and doing something with it is really, really important moving forward. And just a last note from me is, we talk about licensing there, Microsoft licensing. How do we get that? Where does that go? If you don't know, early part of this year, Vapour became a Microsoft CSP partner with Tech Data, and why did we do that? That allowed us, when we were building the platform with Barry and the guys at Wavenet, it allowed us to work with our clients to say, look, if you're looking for a license, a voice license, a Microsoft license, an E365, whatever it is, from a Microsoft licensing point of view and support point of view, we can help and deliver that. So the customer, the client, has got one throat to choke. Where are they going? If they've got a fault, they can ring us and we can fix it, and we've got the access to be able to see it. And that's what we built early in 2013 from a customer experience point of view, where people were ringing and going, well, it's not me, it's them. Well, it's not my platform, it's these guys. Well, I don't run the SIP, it's over here. The customer sat in the middle saying, well, hang on, what's happening? Where's the fault? If we sit and manage all of that infrastructure, we can handle and manage the faults and give a better customer journey and a better customer experience. And so that's one of the reasons why we became a Microsoft partner. It allows us to be able to work with you inside your clients and understand what they want to do, but not have to separate it out and say, I'm sorry, we don't do that piece, we can't manage it, we can't support you. We can do it all now moving forward. So I think in essence, appreciate everybody's time on there. I think we're trying to give you an overview that says it's not just voice here. We're not trying to just pick up a voice platform. We're trying to initiate and trying to get you to think about how the platform, Microsoft platform, works inside your business moving forward, and what you can do with it, not just from a voice element, but taking up that voice that's separate from your business today and bringing it inside it and delivering some more metrics around it that can help the business flourish. I think that's really, really important. And as Microsoft, as you know, buy another gazillion companies over the next few years and spend another, 5 billion, we reap the rewards from that moving forward. And they've never played in the voice world before, but you're starting to see them playing in it, and they've got some deep pockets, and you know that if they want to play in that space, you can see the rise and you can see where it's going. And I think it's only going to become more progressive as we move forward. Barry, thanks for your time today. Kate, we got some questions, hopefully.
Yes, quite a few questions actually. So if anyone else wants to pose any more, please do use the chat panel on the right hand side. I'm just going to start whizzing through them. We've got about 10 so far. There's been a lot of talk about direct routing in the media in recent weeks and months, especially. Pros and cons. We did touch on direct routing today. So what are the pros and cons of that? It's not necessarily always got the best reputation.
I'll do a bit and Barry can do a bit. I think from what we see, we looked at direct routing, all right, and we chose not to do it. So I think that's one thing, first and foremost. I think if you're a voice player, it's simple, but it delivers voice, but it just delivers voice. And I think hopefully what we've tried to highlight for you today here is this is not simple. It's complicated. It's inside an environment, inside a platform. Does it work? Yes, it works. In my opinion, are you going back a step? My opinion is yes, you're going back a step. Barry?
Yeah, I think it's a valid point. I mean, there is a place for direct routing in certain scenarios. If there is specific features and functions that you want to link up to an existing PBX or something like that, it does fit there. I think there's a lot of players coming into direct routing saying, we'll just put an SBC in there and we'll just plug it in and away it goes. And you've got to consider all those other voice elements around it. You've got to consider the fraud, the security, the scalability, the resilience, all that sort of stuff that sits there. And also, making sure that the features and functions are there inside of the Teams environment. It's making sure that you can do that lift and shift. So yeah, we find there's a lot of people doing direct routing. There's a lot of people doing it commercially advantageously, I would say, out there. But as I always say, all that glitters is not necessarily gold. And there's a huge amount of work that goes in the background and the features and functions of the management that changes that. Direct routing, you've still got to know PowerShell, right? You're still got to go into the admin center in Office 365. You've got to have a level of technicality that sits there, and then you've got questions around security in terms of how do you secure your Office 365 tenants. So yes, it has its place, absolutely, and some people are offering it. We think TeamsLink takes direct routing and turbocharges it. It adds a huge range of features and functionality over the top. So yeah, that's where I kind of see it.
This to a degree answers the next question as well, but the benefits of partnering with you guys as opposed to going direct to Microsoft, is there anything else you want to add in that respect?
I mean, I can take it from the platform perspective. Our platform is UK based. We've got UK support. It's fully managed. It's flexible. We're driving it forwards. Tim and the team will do that front end, that great customer service wrap. And make sure that you're getting the questions. We're running the platform. We're humans here sitting in the UK where you can talk to us. We scale out to the rest of the world as well. But actually, it's easy to get through to us, easy to get support. And we're constantly changing and adding third-party services in. Bringing Dubber in is something you wouldn't get from Microsoft. Building bespoke templates is something you wouldn't get from Microsoft. You do get that from Vapour and Wavenet.
Yeah, just to touch on that, I think just one of the reasons why we became a Microsoft CSP, certified partner, because we see the challenges that a client might face if they want some help and support. And if you deal direct with Microsoft, good luck. If you're a 50 user organization, you're trying to go direct to Microsoft, I think you might struggle with it certainly around that. And I think that we felt that we could have, again, we're going back to that customer experience, we could give a better level of customer support and experience by dealing ourselves through Microsoft, but also through Barry and Wavenet.
Thank you. Someone's asked, do you have any specific examples of where an organisation or organisations have introduced TeamsLink and it's had a really demonstrable impact on their collaboration? We know it's suitable for all MS Teams users, but where can it really bring everything to life?
Yeah, so if we look at some of the use cases, I mean, like I say, the largest client is about 3,500. They had a legacy Cisco core manager platform. They wanted to be able to work from home. They wanted that true remote, ability to work from anywhere. They had some specific feature requirements around how the calls came into the business, and they were looking at Teams, and they were looking at WebEx, and they were looking at Slack and Zoom and all that sort of stuff. And what they found was the benefits of using Teams as a platform gave them all the collaboration stuff, and then bolting TeamsLink into that to give them the voice just meant, it really scaled up their transformation project. And now they have people working remotely, they have people working around the world, very, very simply. They haven't got to use VPN, they haven't got to use all this technical stuff to get in. It just works for them. And we rolled that project out in the space of about 6 to 8 weeks with one of our partners. The slowest part of it was education of the actual end user customers, getting them to get away from picking up a phone on their desk to using a headset or that education piece. So that's a real demonstrable change that we've seen, and probably one of the biggest projects that the partner has done to deliver that. And we see that stuff happening all the time with Teams.
Katie, I think the one thing that I'd add to that is, sorry, just one thing that I'd add to that is, I think customers are starting to look at it because they're using the platform for other services. They're using chat, they're using video. It's standard now. We've been used to doing video calls, Zoom calls, whichever video call platform you used to be using. But then we're jumping from platform to platform. So we've got a voice platform via Mitel, whatever it may be. Then we're jumping into Zoom. Then we're jumping into something else. Then we're IMing or whatever we're doing. What we're trying to see here from an experience point of view is you don't have to jump in and about everything. If the voice element fits for you, and it doesn't fit for everyone, like Barry says, but it fits for a lot. If it fits inside there, it's perfect because you don't have to jump around. It sits there. And the reporting that you can pull out the back end of it is impressive enough to say, well, these are the video calls, these are the IMs, this is the chat, this is the video, this is the voice platform, etc., which you don't get when you're jumping out of the others and playing around. And I think that's, from an experience point of view, that's one of the biggest things that I see moving forward.
Thank you. You mentioned earlier in the slides about guests today who may be locked into contractual terms with an existing supplier. We talked about, it can be really simple to deploy. How far in advance should they be talking to you guys to ensure a seamless transition? How far before the contractual terms are up with their existing provider?
Well, if they were thinking about they've got challenges with an existing provider, we want to talk to them as soon as they can. We want to understand where the challenges are, whether they're inside that contract or whether they're a year into it or 2 years into it. It doesn't really matter, really. Let's sit down and have a conversation around it, because it's important to understand strategically what that business is looking at doing moving forward. And so the quicker we get eyes on it, we could add some value, hopefully. And as I said, that might not just be necessarily in the voice element. We could look at strategically what the client's doing right across the business, and we can maybe help somewhere else if we can't help specifically there and then on the voice piece. But yeah, if people are interested, it's easier for us to get involved earlier rather than later.
Thank you. This touches nicely on a question that someone else has asked. They've said that they've got an increase in appetite within their organisation for BI. We've talked about that quite a little bit today. Could you help them as part of that onboarding piece during the training exercise, maybe even as a consultancy piece of work, to take that BI and really bring it to life?
Yeah, there's no problems around that. We'd work, whether it's inside the knowledge base that we have, or maybe with Barry and his team as well. But if that means that we need to get a specialism out of Microsoft, and we need to go to speak to Tech Data and get someone from the Power BI team at BI at Microsoft to come in and understand it, how it might want to link inside Microsoft Dynamics, how it wants to be, whatever that may be, we've got people that we can pull on, that we can if we've got the expertise here, that we can use. It's one of the other reasons why we became a Microsoft partner, because we don't have all that knowledge. Nobody does really, unless you're tech data and you're a £1 billion organisation, you know, you've got the ability and the skill sets there. But if someone's got a specific set of needs, we'll know someone who can help, or people who can help, to come and sit down and have a discussion with them. So yeah, of course, not a problem at all.
And I think on that as well, you know, you can get all this data from multiple different sources. You know, what is it you want to measure, and what's the importance of it? So what we've done with TeamsLink is there's an open API. We just pass all that data across. So if there's something specific you want to build as an organization, you can build that into Power BI. But you might want to look at SharePoint stats, or build this whole into your workflow, and you look at Power Apps and that sort of thing. And that's where Teams as a platform really comes into it, and then TeamsLink bolts on just to add that voice element and give you that information. So yeah, I'm sure, as Tim says, you know, we're seeing huge amounts of uptake on this, and it is about defining what you want to see and what you want to get out of it.
Katie, I think that
Thank
makes
you.
a massive difference regarding the difference between direct routing and, you know, the BI information that you can pull. People are wanting, as I said earlier, people are wanting more info today. What you do with it is up to you, but they wanting more information around the platform or platforms to make better judgments inside their organizations, and consequently that direct routing piece just gives you a voice. All right, you might pull them from different areas, but here you can pull it in for one, or have the API and stick it straight into Dynamics, or do something different with it that you've got some skill set with that we don't. But you just want the raw data. Well, take the raw data then, have the feed and build your own. Not a problem at all. You can't do that when you've got 3 or 4 different platforms that you're trying to pull it from.
Thank you. Someone's asked, just to clarify, can telephone handsets be removed and just use headsets with PCs or the Teams app on a mobile phone?
Yes.
Yes, 100%.
Perfect.
Yep. So just on that though, there are team-specific handsets. You know, so if you want to have a handset on your desk, there are handsets that you can plug into a PC. So if somebody still wants to, you know, it's really hard to slam a headset down on the desk without breaking it. Whereas, you know, sometimes you want to, you know, have that. I've had enough of that call talking to Barry and slam that handset down. So if you've got that sort of environment, you can still get them. But yeah, absolutely, yeah. You can run it from your mobile, from your iPad, from your desktop, wherever you are.
Thank you. In terms of offering training and support for organisations, that support has come up time and again throughout the slides today. Could you help a customer devise a specific training plan to roll it out across their entire user base?
Yes, is the answer to that. I think we understand the challenges that most people will face internally and externally in how we deliver those around porting numbers, whatever that may be, but also, as Barry said rightly before, the user experience. That's one of the challenges around moving from one platform to another. So yeah, definitely work through with Barry and the Wavenet team and ourselves, and Carol and her team inside Vapour. Yeah, not a problem at all.
Thank you. You mentioned numbers there. We do have a question about numbers. Will we have a pool of appropriate regional numbers to choose from as and when required?
Yes, so basically at the start of the journey, you can select a number range, or you can order new numbers as part of as you go along. Obviously, then you can port existing ranges in as well, both UK and international where required.
Thank you. Someone's asked a question I'm sure lots of people are considering. How much does it cost?
That's a $64,000 question, isn't it? Well, it depends on what you want, first and foremost. I think sometimes it's like buying a car. You know, how much is the car? Well, you know, do you want leather? Do you want alloys? Do you want, you know, different aircon, whatever it might be? Let's put it this way. We need to sit down and talk that through, and we'll do that happily, not a problem at all. There's certain license types that we need to buy, but in general, it's nice and simple, and a spreadsheet matrix really about what you're looking for. And that's the beauty of it. So depending on what you want and how many users and what differentials of what issues you're looking for, what license models, then it's dead simple to do. So with half an hour with someone, we can price it up, no problems at all.
Thanks.
Happy to do that individually if need be. Yeah, happy to do that with any client, not a problem at all.
Thank you. I know you've got opinion on this, so I'm going to throw this next question to you. Public versus private cloud. What's your latest thinking on this, please? I know it's a topic all of its own, but top line.
I'm going to give you a personal opinion on it, and how the market space is going, in my opinion. If you went back 3 years, maybe even 2 years, I think there would still be a challenge around public cloud in some way rather than a private cloud. And I say that wholeheartedly because we have a private cloud and we built our own private cloud. As you can see, governments using public cloud and bigger vendors moving into the public domain, and the security around that public environment is a lot better. If I could move my private stack into a public stack, I would do it today. Okay, but I wouldn't have done it 2 years ago. I don't think it was quite there. So as I said, I think I mentioned it earlier, you've got people like Deutsche Bank and MasterCard are moving to a public environment. And if the banks are moving to a secure public environment, I think we're on the right track. And that's my personal opinion. I don't think it's got the stigma that it used to have before. It's much more robust, it's much more secure, it's much more scalable. The beauty about when you put it up there is that wherever you put it in Google or Azure or wherever it sits, is that it's always got the latest security patches on it. And I think that's massively important, that you've got a platform that's been upgraded all the time, security has been upgraded all the time. Some people have even got their own hackers to try and hack it all the time. Whereas actually, if you've got your own private stack, you've got to build that. Your own engineers have got to manage that and support that and update that and target that and secure that. So I think my personal opinion is if I was building my stack again with my engineers, I think we would move our stack that we have today, of which we are doing in April next year, into the public cloud. That's my opinion. Barry?
Yeah, I second that, but I do think that we still find the hybrid cloud is probably the way that we've been attacking it. So we find there are control benefits and cost benefits and management benefits of having a private cloud, and all of our stuff that we're running on the TeamsLink side is built inside our private cloud. So we've got that wall, we've got that control, and it allows us to scale up as we want to go along. What then happens is we then pass that across the public cloud into Azure to get out to Teams. So we've got the best of both worlds. And I do think it depends on what you're trying to achieve as an organization. People think that, oh, public cloud, it's really cheap and I'll go and sign up to Azure. Well, then you've got, transactional charges coming in and out. If you've got loads of voice transactional charges bouncing in and out all the time, that could soon add up. So that's why we've gone from a hybrid perspective. But Tim's absolutely right. This move to Azure, to AWS, that sort of stuff is accelerating. But I think the hybrid model is probably where we're seeing it happen more and more. But yeah, it just depends on what the customer use case is and what you're trying to achieve.
I think just to top and tail that, I think you've got to have the engineers and the support mechanism if you're going to run a private cloud. In abundance, because it's difficult, running. It's just running voice as an example inside this environment. You're running different platforms, different servers. You're running SBCs, you're running servers, you're running networks, you're running routers. You've got engineer. It's a complicated business moving forward, and you need to have the engineering to be able to deliver that. If you're Vapour and you don't have as many engineers as Wavenet have got, sometimes moving that into a public environment takes out some of that, not that you don't need the engineering resource, but takes out that server engineering and the security aspect of it that is a challenge around it. And I think you need to balance where you sit with it. And I think if you're looking at, as an example with Avaya, they never had a public environment, but have just gone public. They've just gone into a public domain to be able to deliver a public service, because they've got to keep abreast with everybody else outside in the space. Could they build it privately? Yeah, of course they could, but there's 10 times more resource needed to build it privately, upgrade it, buy the network, buy the servers, when actually you could build it up in the stack in public and manage and support it effectively, more importantly. So I do think it's horses for courses.
Thank you. We are nearly dead on 11 o'clock. Thank you for answering all of these questions. The final one just takes me nicely onto my last slide. About taking this further, how do guests today discuss things in more detail? How do they organise a demo and so on? Who do they go to from here, please?
Well, first and foremost, they come to us. So they're coming to Vapour. You've got email at the bottom, info@Vapour, if you want to direct that, or you can come to me or the team if you know your account manager. Email them directly, or email me if you want. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm on there. Or tm@vapourcloud.com is mine if you want to come through me. My team will pick that up in the first instance. They will understand what the client's needs are, process it, And then, you know, if it's a voice element that we need to work with Barry and the team with, we'll get the relevant specialists involved.
Thank you. That is everyone's question. So thank you all for tuning in. I know it's been a hot 1 hour, but hopefully you found the content helpful. Everyone that dialed in today will get a copy of the recording to listen again in their own time. And if you want a copy of the actual slide deck too, you are welcome to request those as well. So thank you, Tim. Thank you, Barry. Thank you everyone for dialing in, and we'll hopefully speak to you soon.
Thanks everyone. Appreciate your time.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thanks, Barry.
Cheers, James.